The vast Valorian warship, Eternal Conquest, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, its metal hull gleaming in the distant sunlight. Commander Trell stood on the bridge, his tall frame silhouetted against the viewscreen that displayed their target. A blue-green planet third from the sun. Scans confirm large water bodies covering 70% of the surface, reported Officer Klen, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Atmosphere contains high levels of oxygen. Gravity approximately 10% higher than our homeworld. Trell nodded, his 4 eyes narrowing in consideration. The Valorian Empire had conquered 12 systems in the past century, but their home planets were dying. Resources grew scarce. Their scientists predicted total ecological collapse within 50 years without new colonies to exploit. Any signs of advanced civilization? Trell asked. Primitive technology detected. Radio signals, some orbital structures, but nothing approaching our level, Klen answered. They appear to be in early space development phase. Science Officer Jax approached with a concerned expression. Commander, I must note several anomalies. The gravity readings are concerning for our troops, and the atmospheric composition contains elements our biology isn't accustomed to. Trell waved away the concerns. Our soldiers will adapt. They always do. There's more, Jax insisted. The planet shows unusual biodiversity. Millions of species, complex ecosystems. All the better, Trell interrupted. More resources to harvest. The bridge fell silent as the ship moved closer to Earth. On the main screen, the blue planet grew larger, clouds swirling across its surface. Beautiful and unsuspecting. Prepare the first wave of probes, Trell ordered. I want detailed surface scans before we deploy troops. Within hours, the automated probes returned data that confirmed Jax's concerns. Earth was teeming with life, from microscopic organisms to large mammals. The dominant species, humans, had built sprawling cities and primitive flight technology. In the war room, Trell reviewed the findings with his officers. Holograms displayed human settlements, transportation networks, and military installations. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles and simple explosives. Military strategist Vorn reported. No energy weapons, no shield technology. Their most advanced aircraft can barely reach their orbit. Trell smiled, revealing sharp teeth. Then victory will be swift. Only Jax remained troubled. Commander, I strongly recommend further study before invasion. The native species show remarkable adaptability, and the microbial life is unlike anything in our database. We don't have time for caution, Trell snapped. The High Council expects results. This planet has everything we need. Water, minerals, land. The natives will be no match for our technology. He turned to his communications officer. Send word to the fleet. We attack at dawn. As the message was relayed, Trell walked to the observation deck. Below, Earth rotated peacefully, unaware of the threat hovering above. He thought of the glory awaiting him, the commander who secured a perfect new homeworld for the Valorian people. That night, as the invasion force prepared, Jax made one final plea. At least let me send more probes to study the humans' physical capabilities, he begged. Your concern is noted, Trell said coldly, but unnecessary. We have conquered worlds far more advanced than this one. The first light of Earth's sun touched the Valorian ships as they descended into the atmosphere. Thousands of craft, carrying soldiers and weapons that would overwhelm the primitive humans. Trell watched from the command ship, anticipation building in his chest. The first shots would be fired soon. The war for Earth was about to begin. He had no idea it would be the worst mistake of his life. The Valorian assault ships pierced Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their sleek forms glowing hot as they descended toward the blue planet's surface. Inside the lead craft, Lieutenant Marin checked his soldiers' battle armor one final time. Remember your training, Marin told his unit. Low-tech species always surrender quickly once they see our power. We'll be home before the next cycle. The ship shuddered as it hit turbulence. Several soldiers stumbled, unprepared for the force. Marin frowned. The briefing had mentioned Earth's stronger gravity, but experiencing it was different. Already his limbs felt heavier than normal. "Touchdown in 30 seconds, the pilot announced. First target, a military installation in a region called Nevada. The ship's doors hissed open, revealing a vast desert landscape under a bright sun. Marin led his troops out, their weapons ready. The first shots came almost immediately. Primitive bullets pinged off Valorian armor, barely registering as threats. Marin signaled the advance with a casual wave. "Return fire. Non-lethal rounds first," he ordered. "We want workers, not corpses." The Valorians moved forward with practiced precision, their energy weapons disabling human vehicles and communications. But as minutes stretched into an hour, Marin noticed something strange. His soldiers were breathing heavily, moving slower. The humans, despite their inferior weapons, kept fighting. "Status report." Marin barked into his communicator. "Sir, we're facing unexpected resistance," came the reply from Captain Drez. "The humans don't stay down, and our troops are showing early fatigue." Across the battlefield, a human soldier dragged a wounded comrade behind a barrier, then immediately returned to firing position. Marin watched in surprise. Their endurance was remarkable. By nightfall, what should have been a quick victory had turned into a grinding battle. Marin retreated to the command ship to report. "Commander Trell, we've secured only 3 of our 10 targeted positions," Marin admitted, standing stiffly despite his exhaustion. "The gravity is draining our forces faster than expected. And the humans?" He hesitated. "Speak freely, Lieutenant," Trell said, his voice cold. "The humans are stronger than our intelligence suggested. They can run longer, recover faster. Some took direct stun blasts and kept fighting." Trell's expression darkened. "Impossible. They're primitive. Their technology is centuries behind ours." "Technology, yes," Marin agreed. "But physically, they're adapted to this world in ways we aren't." Before Trell could respond, Medical Officer Pax burst into the room. "Commander, we have a situation. 20% of ground troops are reporting respiratory distress. Some have developed rashes where Earth's air touched their skin." "Biological contamination?" Trell asked sharply. "Unknown," Pax replied. "But this planet's microbial diversity is overwhelming our filtration systems, and the higher oxygen content is affecting our biochemistry." Outside the command ship's windows, Earth's night fell. Cities glittered with lights across the continents. In those cities, humans were rallying, communicating, preparing to defend their world. 3 days later, the situation had worsened. Marin stood in a forward base, watching as medics treated soldiers with mysterious ailments. Equipment failures mounted as Earth's humidity corroded Valorian technology. "Lieutenant, we need reinforcements," Drez reported. "The humans have destroyed 2 of our supply ships." "How?" Marin demanded. "Their aircraft can barely reach orbit." "They didn't use aircraft," Drez explained, looking troubled. "They modified our own fallen weapons. They're learning, adapting, faster than any species we've encountered." That evening, Marin sent an urgent message to Trell. "Request immediate withdrawal for regrouping. Current strategy unsustainable." The response came quickly. "Denied. Press forward. Failure is unacceptable." As Marin prepared his troops for another push, a massive explosion lit up the horizon. A Valorian dreadnought, thought untouchable by Earth weapons, fell from the sky in burning pieces. In that moment, Marin understood the terrible truth. They hadn't brought enough ships. They hadn't brought enough soldiers. They had gravely underestimated Earth. 3 years into the invasion, Captain Reynolds crouched behind the burned-out hull of a Valorian transport ship. Rain poured down, turning the battlefield to mud. Through his binoculars, he studied the alien outpost half a mile away. "How many?" whispered Jones, his second in command. Mud caked her face, making her almost invisible in the darkness. 15 guards, 2 heavy weapons, Reynolds replied, just like last week. Their guerrilla unit had spent months tracking Valorian patrol patterns. The aliens were powerful but predictable. They never expected humans to attack the same target twice. Dr. Reed needs another one of their power cores, Reynolds reminded his team. Without it, we can't complete the defense grid. Jones nodded grimly. Let's not keep the doctor waiting. Across the continent, in an underground laboratory, Dr. Reed hunched over a dissected piece of alien technology. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep, but determination kept her focused. The components were strange, metals unknown to Earth science, but after 3 years, she was beginning to understand them. The energy conversion is incredible, she told her assistant. If we can replicate it, we could power our defenses indefinitely. A military officer interrupted them. Dr. Reed, we've received reports of a new Valorian weapon being deployed in Asia, something biological. Reed's expression hardened. Show me everything. Meanwhile, aboard the Valorian command ship, Commander Trell faced increasing pressure. The war room was filled with tension as officers delivered their reports. We've lost another supply convoy, reported Strategic Officer Vorn. Human fighters ambushed them using our own weapons against us. Impossible, Trell snapped. How are they learning our technology so quickly? Lieutenant Marin, now promoted to field commander, spoke carefully. The humans are remarkably adaptive. They study our fallen equipment and improve upon it. What took our scientists generations to develop, they reverse engineer in months. And our troops? Trell demanded. Marin hesitated. Morale is declining. Earth diseases continue to affect our forces. The gravity strains their bodies. Many are questioning why we fight for a world so hostile to our biology. Trell slammed his fist on the table. Because we have no choice. Our homeworld is dying. The High Council expects results, not excuses. Communication Officer Klenn interrupted. Commander, incoming transmission from the High Council. The holographic image of Council Leader Drav appeared, his ancient face lined with impatience. Commander Trell, 3 years of war with minimal progress. Explain yourself. Trell straightened. Council Leader, we face unexpected challenges. The humans. Excuses. Drav cut him off. Your reports described a primitive species, yet they resist our greatest military force. They are primitive, Trell insisted, but physically superior on their homeworld. We've underestimated their adaptability. Drav's eyes narrowed. The Council grows concerned about resource expenditure on this campaign. We've lost more ships and soldiers than in our last 3 conquests combined. I have a solution, Trell said quickly. A new biological weapon targeting human physiology. We'll deploy it globally, weakening resistance without damaging the planet. After the transmission ended, Marin approached Trell privately. Commander, biological weapons on an unknown ecosystem is extremely risky. We don't understand Earth's microbial life fully. Your concerns are noted, Trell replied coldly. But I won't return to the Council in defeat. That night, as Earth rotated below them, Marin stood at the observation deck. He watched lightning storms flash across the planet's surface. Beautiful but deadly, like everything on this world. A junior officer joined him. Sir, is it true? Are we deploying the bioweapon? Those are our orders, Marin replied quietly. But sir, many of us wonder if this war is even winnable. This world, it fights back. Marin said nothing, but doubt clouded his mind. 3 years of fighting had taught him respect for Earth's defenders. They didn't just fight for territory, they fought for their home, with a ferocity the Valorians had never encountered. As the bioweapon preparations continued, neither side knew they were approaching a turning point in the war. One that would change both species forever. The Valorian bioweapon fell from the sky like gentle snow, white particles drifting down over a major human city. Commander Trell watched from orbit, satisfaction evident in his posture. The pathogen will weaken the humans within days, he announced to his officers. Their immune systems will collapse, leaving them too weak to resist our final push. Lieutenant Marin said nothing, but doubt clouded his eyes. He had warned against this strategy. Earth's biological systems were unpredictable. 3 days passed, then 5, then 10. Where are the reports of human illness? Trell demanded, pacing the command deck. Why haven't they weakened? Science Officer Jax entered with alarming news. Commander, we've detected a problem. Our bioweapon has changed. Changed. How? Earth microbes have altered its structure. Instead of attacking humans, it's affecting our troops. The first cases appeared in our southern base camp. Alarms spread through the command ship. Within hours, reports flooded in of Valorian soldiers collapsing with mysterious symptoms. Their bioweapon had become their nightmare. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Reed examined samples through a microscope. Her team had captured the alien pathogen before it could spread. Fascinating, she muttered. Their weapon bonded with our soil bacteria, completely transforming its function. She looked up at Captain Reynolds, who waited for her assessment. They don't understand Earth's biological complexity, she explained. Our planet has millions of microorganisms that evolved together for billions of years. Their weapon never stood a chance. Reynolds leaned forward. Can we use this against them? Reed nodded slowly. Better. I finally cracked their communications encryption, and with the power cords you recovered, we can broadcast on their frequency. Her eyes gleamed with determination. We can turn their own ships against them. On the battlefield, Valorian troops were retreating from positions they had held for months. Their commanders, desperate and confused, called for reinforcements that never came. Above them, several patrol ships suddenly changed course, weapons firing on their own bases. What's happening? A Valorian soldier cried as friendly fire rained down. Aboard the command ship, chaos erupted. Control panels flashed warning signals as ship after ship reported system failures or unauthorized course changes. We're being hacked, Officer Klen reported, fingers flying across her console. The humans have breached our network. Trell's face contorted with rage. Impossible. Their technology is primitive. Not anymore, Marin said quietly. They've been studying us, learning from every ship we lost, every soldier captured. Through the view screen, they watched in horror as Earth's newly constructed defense grid activated. Massive energy weapons, built from salvaged Valorian technology, targeted their fleet. The first blast destroyed 3 warships instantly. In the command ship's lower deck, a group of officers gathered in a secured room. Marin addressed them solemnly. This war is lost, he stated. We can't defeat these people on their homeworld. Commander Trell refuses to see reality, and more of our people die each day. What are you suggesting? Asked Medical Officer Pax. We must take control. Open peace negotiations. Save what remains of our forces. The officers exchanged concerned looks. Mutiny was punishable by death in Valorian culture, but continuing this failed war meant certain doom. As they debated, a thunderous explosion rocked the ship. The defense grid had found its range. We're out of time, Marin declared. Who stands with me? One by one, the officers nodded. The bridge doors slid open as Marin led a dozen armed officers inside. Trell turned, surprise quickly changing to fury. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Commander Trell, you are relieved of duty, Marin announced. This war is over. Guards moved to restrain the commander as he shouted threats and accusations. Marin took the central command position and opened a channel to Earth's military frequency. People of Earth, he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I am acting Commander Marin of the Valorian fleet. I propose an immediate ceasefire and wish to discuss terms for peace. As the message transmitted, Marin looked down at the blue planet. What they had thought would be an easy conquest had become their greatest defeat. Now they must face something even harder than war, admitting they were wrong and asking for peace. The neutral meeting site was a small island in the Pacific, stripped of all military presence. Colonel Reynolds approached in a helicopter, watching the Valorian shuttle descend from the clouds. His stomach tightened with both hope and suspicion. "Remember," said General Hayes through his earpiece, "trust nothing. This could be a trap." Reynolds touched the pistol at his side. Not that it would help much against alien technology, but its weight was reassuring. The Valorian shuttle landed with a soft hum, stirring palm fronds with its energy field. The doors slid open, and Acting Commander Marin emerged, flanked by two unarmed officers. Even without weapons, the aliens looked formidable, taller than humans, with 4 eyes that missed nothing. "Colonel Reynolds," Marin greeted him, speaking through a translator device. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Reynolds nodded stiffly. 3 years of war, and now you want peace. Forgive me if I'm skeptical." They moved to a simple table set up on the beach. Ocean waves crashed nearby, a reminder of the planet they fought over. "Our invasion was a mistake," Marin said directly. "We didn't understand your world, or your people." "A mistake." Reynolds couldn't keep the bitterness from his voice. "Millions dead, cities destroyed. That's more than a mistake." Marin's secondary eyes blinked slowly, a sign of regret in Valorian body language, though Reynolds didn't know this. "We came seeking a new home," Marin explained. "Our worlds are failing, resources depleted. We saw your planet as salvation, so you tried to take it by force." "Yes, as we had done with other worlds." Marin paused. "But Earth is different. You are different." The negotiation proceeded cautiously. Reynolds presented Earth's demands: complete Valorian withdrawal, surrender of all military technology, and reparations for damages. Marin countered with concerns about his people's survival without a new homeworld. "Perhaps there is another solution," Marin suggested. "We have technology that could benefit humanity. Knowledge of other worlds, faster than light travel." "And why would you share that with us now?" Reynolds asked suspiciously. "Because continuing this war ensures mutual destruction," Marin replied simply. As they talked, both leaders became aware of something unexpected: a growing understanding. Reynolds found himself seeing the Valorians not as monsters but as desperate beings fighting for survival. Marin gained new respect for humans' resilience and ingenuity. Neither fully trusted the other, but both recognized the alternative was worse. "My people will demand justice," Reynolds warned. "They'll want your leaders held accountable." "Beginning with Trell," Marin nodded. "I don't disagree. His decisions cost lives on both sides." The sun began to set, casting orange light across the meeting table. After hours of discussion, they had the framework of an agreement: a 3-month ceasefire while representatives worked toward permanent peace. As they prepared to depart, Marin hesitated. "Colonel, there's something you should know. I've committed treason by seeking peace. When I return, I face trial before the High Council." Reynolds studied the alien's face, surprised by this admission. "Then why do it?" "Because this war cannot be won," Marin answered. "And because I've seen enough death." Back on the Valorian command ship, chaos reigned. News of the peace talks had divided the crew. Many supported Marin's decision, weary of endless conflict. Others considered it a betrayal of their species. "Traitor!" shouted an officer loyal to Trell as Marin returned to the ship. "You dishonor our people." Meanwhile, on Earth, similar divisions emerged. At a global security meeting, voices raised in anger. "We can't trust them," yelled a representative from a devastated region. "This is a trick to regroup their forces." Dr. Reed, now heading Earth's Alien Technology Division, spoke calmly. "If they wanted to continue fighting, they wouldn't have offered peace. Their resources are as depleted as ours." That night, as uncertainty hung over both worlds, Marin sat in his quarters, awaiting word from the High Council. His actions might save 2 species, or doom his own. Either way, there was no going back. The war for Earth was pausing, but the struggle for peace had just begun. The Valorian High Council's flagship entered Earth orbit with an escort of warships. Its massive form dwarfed even the command vessels, golden hull reflecting sunlight as it positioned itself above the blue planet. Marin stood at attention in the docking bay, his posture rigid despite the fear churning inside him. Behind him, a line of officers who had supported the peace initiative waited silently. None knew if they faced execution or redemption. The council members emerged from their shuttle, 5 ancient Valorians in ceremonial armor, their faces lined with age and authority. Council leader Drav led them, his 4 eyes scanning the hangar critically. Acting Commander Marin. Drav's voice echoed. You have much to explain. Hours later, in the council's temporary chamber, Marin faced his judgment. Holograms displayed battle statistics, casualty reports, and resource expenditures. The numbers told a devastating story. Nearly 40% of the invasion force lost, hundreds of ships destroyed, and precious resources wasted. This is the greatest military failure in modern Valorian history, Council member Thex stated coldly. With respect, Marin replied, it was doomed from the start. Earth is not like other worlds we've conquered. Its gravity, microbes, and atmospheric conditions are hostile to our biology. And its defenders, he paused. The humans adapt faster than any species we've encountered. On the planet below, a parallel reckoning unfolded. Global leaders gathered in the remains of the United Nations building, partially rebuilt after Valorian bombardment. Colonel Reynolds and Dr. Reed presented their assessment of the ceasefire. The aliens are keeping their word so far, Reynolds reported. All combat operations have ceased. Their ships maintain orbit but launch no attacks. And we believe them, asked the representative from a devastated Asian nation, skepticism heavy in his voice. Dr. Reed activated a holographic display showing the Valorian fleet. Our monitoring systems, built from their own technology, confirm their weapons remain powered down. More importantly, we've detected a new ship. The display zoomed in on the Council flagship. This vessel represents their highest authority. Back on the command ship, the trial of Commander Trell had begun. Restrained and defiant, he faced his accusers. I acted in the best interests of our people, Trell insisted. This world has everything we need. Except habitability, Council member Larn countered. Reports indicate our troops cannot function at full capacity in Earth conditions. Many develop chronic illnesses within months. Temporary adaptations would. Enough, Drav interrupted. Your arrogance cost thousands of Valorian lives. The Council has reviewed Marin's peace proposal. While unprecedented, it may be our only option. 2 days later, Marin and 2 council members descended to Earth for the first official diplomatic meeting. They arrived at a heavily guarded facility in neutral Switzerland, where representatives from Earth's nations waited tensely. The room fell silent as the aliens entered. Despite translation devices, communication remained difficult, not just in language but in fundamental concepts. We propose a knowledge exchange, Drav stated. Our technology for your biological insights. We need to understand how you thrive in conditions that weaken our people. Dr. Reed leaned forward. And what guarantees do we have that this knowledge won't be used against us in the future? A fair question. Drav acknowledged. We propose mutual monitoring stations. Your observers on our ships, ours in your facilities. As negotiations continued, a separate meeting took place in a secured room. Colonel Reynolds faced Marin alone. Your former commander, Reynolds began. What will happen to him? Trell has been found guilty of strategic failure and resource mismanagement, Marin answered. His punishment will be severe. Reynolds nodded slowly. Justice matters to my people. Many want all Valorian commanders held accountable for war crimes. As do many of mine for human resistance fighters, Marin replied. Their eyes met in silent understanding. Both sides had committed acts they weren't proud of. True peace would require more than just treaties. It would need forgiveness. As the day ended, Council leader Drav made a historic announcement. The Valorian High Council formally recognizes Earth as a sovereign world, unsuitable for colonization. We seek peaceful coexistence where once we sought conquest. It was the first step toward healing. Whether it would be enough, only time would tell. 5 years after the ceasefire, the orbital station Unity rotated gently above Earth, its massive ring structure housing both human and Valorian inhabitants. The station served as neutral territory, where the once warring species now worked to build a different future. Diplomat James Reynolds, formerly Colonel Reynolds, stood at the observation deck, watching Earth turn below. Gray hair now streaked his temples, a reminder of the years that had passed since the war ended. "Still watching for threats?" asked a familiar voice. Reynolds turned to see Marin approaching. The Valorian diplomat no longer wore military insignia, but instead the blue robes of the newly formed Interspecies Council. "Old habits," Reynolds admitted with a slight smile. "Though these days I'm more concerned with trade routes than battle plans." They stood side by side, an image unimaginable during the war. Beyond the viewport, a human shuttle docked with a Valorian vessel, exchanging personnel and supplies. "The agricultural exchange program is showing promise," Marin noted. "Your Earth crops are remarkably adaptable to our colony worlds." "Just not your people to our world," Reynolds replied. Marin's 4 eyes blinked in acknowledgement. Earth has earned its reputation across the galaxy. The humans of the Deathworld. Few species would dare challenge you now. The term had spread quickly among spacefaring civilizations. Deathworld, a planet so challenging that its native inhabitants were naturally stronger, more resilient, and more adaptable than most. What the Valorians had seen as a prize to conquer was now viewed with cautious respect. Across the station, in the Joint Research Laboratory, Dr. Reed supervised a team of human and Valorian scientists. They analyzed data from the latest expedition to Mars, where terraforming equipment, based on Valorian technology, but modified for human use, was transforming the red planet. "The oxygen levels are stabilizing faster than predicted," noted Valorian scientist Jax, who had once warned Trell about Earth's dangers. "Your microorganisms are remarkably efficient." "Evolution on a challenging world," Reed replied. "Earth shaped us to be survivors." Their conversation was interrupted by a group of young Valorian cadets touring the station. Part of the new exchange program, they would spend a year studying alongside human counterparts. One young cadet stopped, staring in fascination at the blue planet visible through the laboratory window. "Is it true humans can drink water containing other organisms without getting sick?" she asked Reed, her voice filled with wonder. Reed laughed. "Our immune systems handle it quite well, yes." Later that evening, a formal ceremony marked the signing of the Mars Development Treaty. Humans would get a second homeworld, easing Earth's population pressures, while the Valorians would receive desperately needed resources from asteroid mining operations. As representatives from both species gathered, an elderly Valorian approached Marin quietly. "I once served under Trell," he said softly. "I believed in our right to take Earth. I was wrong. Are they truly ready to trust us with Mars?" Marin considered this. "Trust grows slowly, but we've learned something important from humans. Adaptation isn't just physical. It's also cultural." Across the room, Reynolds was introducing young human officers to their Valorian counterparts, the next generation, who would build on the fragile peace their elders had established. As the ceremony concluded, a Valorian cadet approached Marin cautiously. "Commander," she said, using his old title out of respect, "what is Earth really like? The surface, I mean. Our teachers say we can never go there." Marin gazed thoughtfully at the planet shining blue and green through the viewport. "Earth is beautiful and terrible," he replied. "A world of contradictions, oceans that can swallow ships whole, yet provide life in abundance. Gravity that crushes our bodies, yet strengthen the humans. Microbes that make us ill, yet heal their wounds." He paused, watching human and Valorian representatives shake hands. But its greatest lesson wasn't about strength or weakness, Marin continued. It was that sometimes the most powerful choice isn't to wage war, but to be brave enough to make peace. On Earth and in space, two species once determined to destroy each other now faced the stars together, forever changed by a war on a Deathworld and the difficult peace that followed.